Hello, and welcome to today's Republican Voice. I'm Barry Greenspan. I'm the producer of the series and your host. I'm a former member and a former chairman of the Malden Republican City Committee, and I'm currently an associate member of the Medford Republican City Committee. I'd like to welcome our guest, Joe Manzoli. Joe, thank you for coming along.
Hey, welcome. Thank you, and I welcome the opportunity to being on. So,
To start with, you consider yourself primarily a political consultant, am I correct?
you could call me that. Yeah.
Right. Now, is the term consultant interchangeable with advisor, or is there more to it than...
Well, I mean, the term gets mixed a lot of times. Sometimes people will look at it as a political manager, campaign manager, a strategist, an advisor, consultant. Basically, what it means is just what it means. You're consulting somebody on their campaign, and you have to have some sort of experience behind it to be able to do that and say that.
And do all consultants do the same type of work, or are there specialists, for example?
They're a specialist. I mean, you'll have someone will be a political consultant, but there might be a media consultant, there might be a fundraising consultant, there might be a new media consultant where they're doing website development and communications and that kind of thing. So, I mean, there's a broad spectrum, and you'll have someone like a Dick Morris that is a consultant, but he's more of a strategist, top-down type of person who's looking at the races a little bit differently.
And of course, the bigger the office, the more consultants will be needed.
Well, certainly, larger the campaign, you're going to need, more help. Yeah.
Well, if someone were to approach you and say, Joe Manzoli, I want to be a political consultant just like you, without giving away any trade secrets, so what advice would you give that person?
Sure. First and foremost, I would tell them to get involved locally, and I would tell them to try to serve on a local board, whether it be an appointed position like a board of trustees for a library. Maybe you might get on the elections board, but get involved in your own community. Get involved with the people in your neighborhood. Do something locally, because that's the best way of being able to understand what politics is all about, but what public service is all about.
You've worked on countless campaigns. You've been a consultant, a manager. You've done so much. When did you start? What was the first campaign you ever volunteered for? Or how far back are we talking?
Well, it's funny. I had this conversation with Dick Morris several months back, and we were talking about when did you get started? And in Dick's case, Dick and I grew up in different cities together. He's from New York. I'm from Boston. And he started when he was 8. We're the same age. We're a month apart. He started when he was 8, when he was running somebody's campaign for the 4th grade president of the class in New York. I started by osmosis because every fall, as a little kid, from the time I can remember, the two things that always happened. A bus would pull up and let off the kids from Roxbury Memorial to go practice at Elmont Park. And then every fall, every election, there was a primary. And there would be people out there passing out leaflets and passing out push cards while you were going to the primary to vote for whether it was a city council election or whether it was a state reps election. So every year we had an election. So I would collect the push cards like most kids would collect baseball cards, and that's how I got involved, basically. I mean, it's just that one of those natural things. And again, growing up in Boston, everything is political, so.
Did you save any of them? And are they collector's items?
I didn't save any of them. I didn't save any of my baseball cards either.
Yeah.
I
Same
regret
here.
that. So.
Okay, is there any particular offices, for example, a constitutional office, that maybe you would not want to work in that campaign because of the nature of the office? Is that, or are all offices equal to you?
Well, certainly all offices are different. I mean, I'm fortunate to have worked on 2 congressional races, a U.S. Senate race, a gubernatorial race. I've worked on state reps races, state senator races. I've worked on selectmen's races, school committee races, dog catcher, etc. I mean, and they're all unique and they're all different. Basically, what I look for, I haven't worked on a presidential campaign, and I'm not sure I want to work on a presidential campaign because that's a whole different arena.
Certainly.
But basically what you're looking for is, there are several elements. First of all, you need to be a good candidate. You need to have a good candidate. And that means not only are they able to communicate well, but what are they made of? What's their background? What's their education? What is the honesty factor? How do they communicate that way? The other thing that you need is you need to have a good message. By message, I mean it's not a slogan, it's really what are you running for, why? And the big thing that I always ask a candidate is why you're running for school committee, why you're running for city council. It's your why. I don't want to hear what you think I want to hear. I want to know what's inside of you, because that's the reason that you're running, and you get to let people know this is why I'm running. Third thing that people look for is what type of organization do you have? Many candidates today, especially this last election cycle, first time in their lives they ever ran for public office. And as a result, they didn't have much of an organization. So that was really, you're at a disadvantage because you haven't served on any boards, you haven't served in elected capacity, and you're running for Congress, or you're running for state senate, or you're running for something else. You need to build up that organization. The fourth thing is, yes, it does take money to run a campaign. But you do need to have money, you need to have access to money, because just little things like buying push cards, buying lawn signs, buying local TV ads or radio ads, you need money. You need to be able to get that. And the fifth thing that I always look for is, okay, what's the plan? How do we plan this out so that we can get you elected if everything works the right way? And oftentimes, those are the basic elements that you have. They just vary by degree and by election. So, for example, if you're running a statewide campaign, and although Massachusetts is a small state by comparison, believe me, I've been there. I've been in ball fields having meetings with people. You have to have an outreach. You have to connect. You have to be able to press the flesh and get people to like you and understand you, and that's where your message comes into play.
Is there anything territorial about being a consultant? For example, you're in Massachusetts, born and raised, and live here. But if you were, let's say, offered an opportunity to manage or consult in a campaign, let's say in Connecticut or New Jersey, would you feel you'd be, out of your element?
Not really. Everything, Tip O'Neill said this, and they keep quoting him all the time,
That's what I was
and
thinking.
it's true. All politics is local, so you do need to know what the local politics is all about. Certainly, I can tell you that if we go across the state, the politics in the Cape is a lot different than the politics in the North Shore. The politics in Worcester County, which is completely different, because everybody in Worcester County knows one another, it's a big county, is a lot different than Western Massachusetts or the Berkshires. So you do have to have an understanding of what the locale is. And yes, if you were doing a campaign out of state, with say in New Hampshire, Connecticut, or California, what are the issues that really mean an awful lot to the average working man and woman or the average citizen that's going to vote? Those are the key things that you have to find out. And how are we going to reach those people?
Have you held any leadership positions within the Republican Party?
Well, I was chairman of the Shrewsbury Republican Town Committee for many, many years, and became a Republican in 1980 because I was a registered unenrolled. I decided that I didn't want to be asked to be working for other candidates, and at that point in time I decided consciously to become a Republican. In the early 80s, the Republican Party in Massachusetts was in disarray. We didn't have a strong two-party system. I could see at that point in time that if we didn't have good people running for office, we wouldn't have any balance, that you could have a sense of crisis of confidence and rampant corruption throughout state government, much like it is today.
Since you do live in Worcester County, there is a very strong Worcester County Republican Club. Are you active with that?
Yeah, I was the vice chairman many years ago. It's the second oldest Republican club in the United States. The oldest is the Middlesex Republican Club. And about 12 years ago, we got active in it to build it up and get people organized and get some of the town committees organized and get candidates to run. And I think we were very successful in getting people elected at that point in time. In Shrewsbury, for example, we're outnumbered 2-1 by the Democrats. And in 1986, got a young fellow to run for office as a state rep. He was the only Republican that year to defeat the incumbent. His name was Peter Blute. Took Peter in 1992, said, hey, you know what, I want you to run for Congress. Ran a very good campaign against a very well-liked, popular incumbent, Joe Early. Ran a clean campaign, ran it on the issues, and we won. Backfilled Peter's position with Ron Gouch. When Ron stepped down, we had Karen Polito step up, and she ran a good race. And this year I was involved in another campaign, so I kind of abandoned Shrewsbury a little bit, but we have our fourth consecutive Republican state rep in Matt Beaton. I used to coach Matt's brother. I used to coach at high school football, and I threw him out of my locker room once, and that's the last time I remember him. But he ran a good campaign, and I'm glad to see that we've got young people that are coming up and passing on the torch.